Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are coming to you from within the shadow of the great Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, deep within our underground bunker. And we want to thank you for joining us on this very special episode. It is Sunday, September 29th, 2024. And tonight, we're going to continue our conversation with four-time returning champion to the show, Nathaniel Gillis. But first, we have some quick announcements we want to do before we bring Nathaniel on. So, Michelle, what do we got going on?
Well, first and foremost, if you have a story to tell us so that we can talk about it and read it on the show, make sure that you send that to our email at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com.
That's right. And also, if you wish to make a donation to the podcast, you can do so with PayPal, Super Chats, buy us a coffee, and you can check out our merchandise store or join the Patreon. All those links can be found below in the show description. And Michelle, what else do we got going on?
No, well, it's always about that like, share, subscribe. With the analytics with YouTube, they love to shadow ban. As soon as you say anything about UFOs, UAPs, aliens, cryptids, paranormal, anything,
abductions,
it's like we're going to go ahead and put these folks on the back burner.
Yep.
So make sure, hit the subscribe, like, share, subscribe on
That's
YouTube,
right.
on
what is it?
Spotify.
Make sure you follow on there. Follow us. Oh, and give us like a 5-star review.
We sound like Uber drivers,
right? 5-star review. But just real quick about the analytics. Right now we're showing that 56.5% of you watching are not subscribed. Oh man, we got to beat that algorithm. We need you guys to, if you're watching, please subscribe. You don't have to sign up for anything. It helps us out and it pushes us out even more. And like I just said, if you're watching us on Spotify, ever since Spotify took over Anchor, which was our host, we lost a lot of viewers and listeners when that buyout kind of happened.
Like Wayne's youngest daughter, when she was little, she used to say Piscapeer. They Piscapeered.
Yeah, they Piscapeered everybody. So if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you are following us. And Michelle, why don't you go ahead, since you're running chat tonight, why don't you go ahead and jump on there and say hello to everybody. And we got a special.
We've got a
welcome
lot.
And thank you.
We've got Miss Diane here with us tonight. We have Gary, one of our newest Patreon members. Mm-hmm. So we'll get back to Gary in just a second here. We also want to say hello to Moon at Noon. Let's see. We've got...
I see Rick Davis and Kelly Lewis out there.
Rick Davis and Kelly Lewis are here. Blue Crossroads. Nathan from the Quantum Show.
Nathan, what's going on? And everybody, check out his show, The Quantum Show. Very
Janine
cool.
is with us. Hello from the west side of Detroit.
Yep, absolutely.
Detroit. Make it French.
It is French. We just say Detroit.
We'll just make it more French then.
Like Gratiot.
So back to Gary for a second. Wayne?
Yeah. So before we even got the show started, we had a very nice donation from Gary. And probably the largest donation we've ever received via PayPal. So Gary, to you, Mr. Gary T, we want to thank you very much, because actually that will help us out a lot, because what is this? What is this thing we're using? StreamYard has doubled their price per month now. It used to be $25 a month. Now it's $45 a month since they sold out too. So every little bit helps. We might have to start shopping though for a new live streaming service. So we'll get that figured out.
Yeah, because I had somebody at work. They're like, "Oh, you must make a lot of money doing a podcast." I'm like, "No, we're really just doing it for fun."
Yeah.
So thanks Spotify.
It's because of, well, and you know, the thing that keeps us going is everybody in chat, everybody outside of chat that makes little donations here or there, or buys a t-shirt or whatever. We just take all of that and we just put it back into all of this stuff. So
we are our own little eclectic family.
Yeah, yes, we are. Yes, we are. That is for sure. So yeah, so once again, thanks to Gary T out there for really giving us quite the donation. It was very surprising to see that come through. I ran with my phone over to Michelle. I was like, "Michelle, do you know who this is?" She's like, "I don't know who that is." I'm like, "Okay." So anyways, thank you very much, Gary. Some more news just real quick. We want to talk about Ray Szymanski. So we had him on last Sunday, and don't forget, he's got his final public presentation on the 1966 swamp gas UFO in Ann Arbor and Dexter and everything that was going on. This will be his final presentation here for 2024, and this will be at the Taylor Public Library here in Michigan on October 16th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Ray's going to be bringing plenty of books, so if you're interested in purchasing them, they're $15 a piece or $40 for the complete trilogy. And he's also going to be signing them as well if you're interested. So, and I believe I just checked the calendar over at the library, and it looks like they still might have some seats left, or they expanded the number of people because it was limited to 50. And his last appearance in Dexter, he had standing room only. So want to make sure, yeah, Hides in Long Grass says meeting Ray was a blast. Yeah, he's quite the character, and great guy. So anyways, again, that's October 16th from 6 to 7:30 at the Taylor Public Library, the Not Swamp Gas, the true story of the 1966 UFO. All right, Michelle. We're going to talk about golems and not the Lord of the Rings golem.
My precious.
What are golems? And where did we leave off the last time we had Nathaniel on? Because it was getting into some deep, dark stuff. And I think we need to bring him back on like right now. What do you think?
I think we should.
All right, let's do it. Nathaniel Gillis, what's up, my friend? How are you?
What's going on, guys? It's so great to be back with you guys. I always enjoy my time, and I'm not quite sure where we left off last time, but I know we were getting into something deep.
We started digging into a little bit with the AI and a little bit into Washington, D.C., and we never got to really digging into the AI situation and all of these robots we're starting to see. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the what did you call them? The elves in ayahuasca, people doing ayahuasca, the digital elves or something like that. Seems like everybody's seeing these same types of things. So I want to get into that. So people out there, if you're wondering what we're talking about, episode 97 was the last time Nathaniel was on a couple months ago in July. And we talked about a term that you were calling necronetics. And this is a kind of a new kind of a term to use for what your field of study is for you personally.
Correct.
And it's talking about the similarities of modern day abductions with aliens, or is it some kind of entities, and how these things were reported in antiquity. So I guess we should start there. Maybe you can define it a little bit better
So,
once again to refresh everybody. And any new developments since you were back on here in July of 2024?
yeah, so for those who don't know what necronetics is, it's a combination of two words, necromancy and genetics. And it originates from my research regarding incubi entities, incubi and succubi entities. And I'm kind of a boots on the ground researcher as well. And so I'm actually dealing with case studies where these entities are manifesting at night in homes, specifically to women. And so what I was doing for the last few years was going in home, actually doing investigations, collecting symbols on skin and just random stuff. It's fascinating. And then the more I got into the actual data, the more I realized is that there's something very strange about this. That these entities had a particular schedule, they had a particular victimology, that they weren't simply just trying to inseminate the woman with a fetus, they were carving their sigils into their flesh. And that's when I realized, yeah, no, Wayne's already like, oh God. We're
Here
already
we
there,
go.
guys. We're already there. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's when I
15 minutes in.
realized, yeah, I'll tell you what, that's when I realized something that was heavy. It took me a while to not just comprehend, but want to comprehend it, right? There's things that are true that you're forced to look at. And it's like, oh my God, I don't want this to be real. That's when I started to realize that at least some of these incubi entities were practitioners themselves, and that it was kind of another intersectionality between the UFO abduction phenomenon and the occult connection that seems to be interwoven in all.
Wait a minute. Can you explain that a little bit more? That uh, go back a little bit. You kind of caused a short circuit in my brain. They were practitioners as well. Explain.
Mhm. Yeah, so Father Sinistrari of Amino was one of the most prolific writers regarding incubi entities, and he was collecting excretions and secretions left by the being in the bed. And this is really trippy, but the samples were discolored. And at that particular time, there were witnesses observing light phenomena occurring up just above recently dug graves where men who had recently died. This is good. People need to. You're already getting me pumped up. The phenomenon was collaborating with practitioners. The grimoire, the ritual itself required certain secretions, and it just so happened to be that's what these beings were taking and using. And so, their at first blush, their theory was that at least some of the seed being inseminated into the woman came from recently deceased men.
Oh my god, dude.
We're,
That is dark, man. That is
oh yeah,
that
it's
is
very
bad.
dark. Well, yes, because their victimology was not just based on who you were; it was based on how you died. And so now we kind of extrapolate that into, well, did they die on accident? Or did something kill them specifically in such a way so that the phenomenon can come and harvest the seed to implement right? It's very, very, very deep and dark stuff. And to be
It's
honest with
almost
you
like
guys,
a loop, like a logic loop. It almost
yep,
feels like that. Like the entities need us to need them, but they're also participating in us needing
yes.
them. And it's this constant cycle. So what happens if we disappear?
That's the problem I have with the current model, my friend. People are saying, well, if there's such a
Okay.
threat, they would land on the White House lawn, they would destroy us. And I think that's, forgive me, just speaking from my heart here, it's kind of lazy. Because if the correct model is symbiosis and even parasitism, then it's in their best interest to keep us as hosts,
There you go.
right?
Yeah.
And so we're saying we're high-fiving each other, thinking, "Oh my God, we're yeah, right. They're the best thing since sliced bread." No, 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 no. No. We are sourcing secretions for them. And so Sinister of Amino was not only collecting samples, like within an hour of the entity manifesting, he was present doing his investigation. And in some cases, he was finding this is again this was a huge connection. Was finding not just symbols but sigils. Like I'm talking like we would find in the occult. He was finding it underneath their eyelids.
Under their
And
eyelids?
yes, so every night when that individual would go to sleep, when that eyelid flipped over, she's staring directly into a sigil carved into her flesh by an entity. And at some point in my research, I came to the startling conclusion, forget all the dogma. What is this? What are they? And that's when I realized that this had everything to do with the occult, and that the incubus was not just a who, but it was a how. In that it was harvesting secretions from another person in order to inseminate this individual.
Because they
And so,
can't do it themselves, right?
yes, yes, so this is fascinating, and this mythology is one documented throughout history. In the Apocrypha of John, where it says they took the women, the wives, but they created this facade, this cognitive interface to where when the woman sees him, she thinks it's her husband. And I've had cases like this. And so they're doing the same things. It's just that a lot of people in the field, we fail to observe the behavioral patterns. And so we kind of compartmentalize it, right? Oh, well, it's not the occult, it's ufology. And here's what's my newest kicker, right? It's not orbs, it's not hauntology. Now they're UAPs. And it's like, no, 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 no. A lot of this phenomenon was first witnessed in seances. The very first contactees in ufology were contacting entities, NHI, allegedly, by virtue of homemade Ouija boards, to the point where George Hunt Williamson is literally being commandeered by entities who were speaking out of his cavity, multiple voices at one time. And so that's important because a lot of people want to suggest that the occult connection is something fabricated, it's a projection of the religious right, and it's not true. I wish it was, right? It would make our job a little bit easier. We'd go to bed at night thinking, okay, no big deal. But since it is something that it's relevant and it's germane to the conversation, we owe it to ourselves to look at the data set. And the data set suggests, yes, these are practitioners. They're not just inseminating women. I'll go a step further. The evidence I've collected throughout the years suggests that they're commandeering the fetus that they're impregnating. This is necronetics, and the idea is that to preserve the denatured ghost, the consciousness that dispossesses its own body, it has to have a new body to inhabit. And so the idea would be the replication of the self I'm replicating through you.
Whoa.
And so it was this blueprint that really expanded my consciousness, I should say. Ooh, right.
Right,
Expanded my consciousness. Put that
right.
on a t-shirt. But it more or less made me aware that whatever we're dealing with, there are factions that are highly evolved, highly parasitic, and unbelievably deceptive. I'll kind of touch on that real quick, and then I can go into some of my newest research regarding
Okay.
Russian
Yeah,
cosmism. But
before you do that, just real quick,
yep.
need to give a shout out to T-Bone for $10 Canadian super chat. Thank you very much, T-Bone. We very much appreciate you, man. Thank you. All right.
But yeah,
I'm
so
creeped out, dude. I'm sitting here in the dark and I'm freaking creeped out right now because I did just finish listening to our show from the last time you were on too, and I was like
mhm,
just just creeped out, man. Because you
yeah.
talk about these embryos and things, and my brain goes to the freaking grays, dude. Like, what
Oh,
would
of
they
course.
look like? What would they look like? Black-eyed children, maybe? Maybe
Mm,
grays? Dude,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is crazy.
Well, yeah, you're looking at again, like the Apocrypha of John said that they were making copies of bodies. Now, here's a kicker: just because they look alien doesn't mean the consciousness within them is. And there is also evidence throughout antiquity, specifically speaking of mediumship and necromancers, to where, like, especially in Egyptology, the what is it? What's called an oov, an obi. It's pronounced oov, but it had a dual meaning, and many meanings. It was a possessing entity. It was a necromancer. It was the material image of the entity that so it's everything. What are we talking about? We're talking about avatars. We're talking about AI. We're talking about a species that literally realized that in order to facilitate and further its own existence, it created another species to which it can inhabit. One that it amplifies the signal between the consciousness it's possessing, right? And you and I, as we're interfacing it. And so in antiquity, they said, okay, these are the Uv. And so they had different definitions, all describing a single entity that we now know as the Great. And this is important to understand because, like I said, yeah, sure, it looks alien. But if these entities that, and I think they're sorcerers, but if these entities who've been here since the dawn of written history, they've had thousands of years to constantly modify what they're going to inhabit. This gets back to some of the more fascinating nuances of Göbekli Tepe, where the archaeologists unearthed what is crazy, what were called eye idols, and they were worshipped as deceased ancestors. Wait a minute, not extraterrestrial, but deceased ancestors. And these particular idols had eyes. That was it. No mouths, no ears. Anthropologists realized that the reason that they were made with eyes and no mouths, no ears is because that there was a way that they communicated with us. And it was just by looking. And so their eyes are huge. And so there was almost like a telepathic value there. But
Mm.
what are we dealing with? I don't know. I am collecting evidence to kind of further my hypothesis that we are being summoned to conjure. And that's an ugly game. For instance, the 1990s, there was a group of Russian researchers who they recreated what's called um, what is it? The Kozyrov? I think it was what it is. Anyways, it's Kozyrov, that's what it is, the Kozyrov mirror. And they discovered it from another researcher who had long passed. Basically, it's a mirror that's folded into itself. It goes in like this. It's called the Kozyrov mirror. And in their experiments, they went into an undisclosed location at the facility. And they sat down in front of the mirror. And in the middle of one of their sessions, lights are off, their feet are on sand, and symbols begin to manifest in the mirror. This is a lot like scrying. It's like the Elizabethan magician John D. Edward Kelly. It goes all the way back to old Mesopotamian sorcery. But anyways, this blew my mind. Anyways, so they're sitting there and they're documenting this light phenomenon. They're flashing, and symbols are flashing, and this is from their records. They said all of a sudden a terror filled the room. They get up, they get out, they end the session, they walk out of the room, and they go and get a crucifix. They take the crucifix, they put it in front of the door, they go back into the room, they go back into in front of the mirror, and they begin their session again. Again, terror. And so one of the individuals thought to himself, or at least he thought to himself, I have a favorite philosopher of mine. This is very heavy because the implications for our species they're terrifying. He said, my favorite philosopher has a symbol that he always used. It was the symbol of peace. It's a circle with three other circles inside. And he said, for some reason, I feel compelled to bring that symbol in front of the Kozyrov mirror. He does it, and the fear got stronger. Evil materialized in that room. He leaves, They run out of the room. They go outside of the facility. This is going to blow your mind. The security guard pulls them aside and says, "Look, I don't know what you guys are doing in there, but there has been a silver metallic object hovering over that building." It was only then,
When was that?
90s, I believe. So,
Do you remember the
end of it-
maelstrom with
yes.
the thing that was over the nuclear base in Wyoming, I believe?
Mhm. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Except it was a red orb.
There we go. So this blew my mind because the researcher starts to think, why is it that the terror didn't get weaker? It didn't vacate the room, but it actually magnified the fear. That's when he realized that the symbol he thought came from the philosopher came right out of Haiti and was used in sorcery. So the phenomenon, I got chills, man. And I'm trying, okay, people can say, I'm making this bigger. No, I'm not. What I'm suggesting here is that the phenomenon summoned them to conjure the phenomenon. And it had literally led them to believe, okay, this is a cool symbol. No, it's a sigil. And that sigil is directly tied to an entity that's trying to come out of that mirror. I will go even deeper. The leading researcher in that experiment, once they finished everything, I'm out. Literally changed his entire career, and he had a stark warning for the Russian military-industrial complex. My fear, he said, is that my government or a government will weaponize that portal. And they'll think, oh my God, we have this amazing tech, not realizing that you're the one being summoned. You're in your summoning, you're conjuring, and you're going to think it's a weapon. And it's not. It's a portal for whatever they are to come through. And they've always done that, even with John D. and Edward Kelly in the middle of their scrying sessions. They would see small metallic objects flying around with little men staring at them. So when people say, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to conjure, I'm telling you, it grieves me because over and over and over again, the data set tells us we are not in control. It's an illusion. And that there are life forms beyond the veil that are operating, pulling levers, pushing buttons, playing by rules we don't even know exist. And we're thinking, oh, right, I'll manipulate my consciousness. Okay, cool. Until something steps inside of you, and it has, And so I know there are factions within the community that say, okay, that sounds religious. That's fine. I don't really care because at the end of the day, they're wanting us to believe that the scientific method calls them to build altars in the desert. No, right? They realize some things, my friends. They realize that whatever this is, it has a unique flavor. It has a unique craving. And in
Well,
some cases, that's worship.
okay. Just to play off of that, what you just said about people saying this is religious. Well, if this was happening in antiquity, who the hell would you go to? Who would you ask for
Right.
help?
Oh my
Who would
God.
be the people you would expect to be able to deal with these entities? And I think you're absolutely right. These things are playing by not only a different rule set, but like that they can make you do things in the future that you don't know you're
Oh
going
my
to do
God.
in the future, and kind of set you up for just like that symbol. The guy that came up with that symbol of peace,
It's unbelievable.
he
Unbelievable, my friend.
he had no idea that that was some kind of a sigil, correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Now watch
Okay.
this.
All right.
How long have we heard that? We've heard this a billion times. Oh, well, my intentions determine theirs. Well, let's hold this case study. Say, okay, sure. The man literally that's the point. The man literally said, "This is a symbol of peace." And the phenomenon here's what's important. The phenomenon allowed him to believe that. And then by the time the phenomenon had orchestrated this life event, got the man present in the room in front of the mirror, all bets are off. And this is what really unnerves me because you don't know. I'm not talking about you, obviously, but they don't know what that sigil is tethered to. And we've seen it over and over again where, most recently, at least, not too recent, but with the Conjuring haunting with Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Andrea Perron, I talked to her years ago at a Paracon, and she's like, yeah, we had all these different spirits, and then they challenged something they didn't know was there, didn't even know it existed. And it balls the mom up, throws her against the wall, and she nearly dies. And so I think that this is it's evident, it's evidence of where we are as a species and what our government really knows about these life forms. Matter of fact, it was Nick Redfern's book, The Final Events. And I don't agree with everything the Collins elite believed. Okay. I grew up in evangelicalism, heard it all my life. But it is funny, but it's incredible. There were people in our federal government who were trying to remote view aliens. Full stop.
Wait,
And as they're remote viewing these beings, oh my God, these beings went like this. Ooh, someone is accessing me. In our government, the same remote viewers that were trying to remote view aliens realized that they told each other, do you feel something? What do you mean?
they
There's
were already there.
something remote viewing us. So what I'm suggesting is, oh yeah, they're aliens, right? Okay, they're extraterrestrial. I don't think we have a correct vocabulary or anything remotely valid to describe what they are. Literally, like, you're talking about something that not only had the sensitivity to know that we were looking into them, they reversed the curse and literally began to destroy their lives.
Well,
And
okay,
it's just crazy.
yeah, you're right. And Bad Wolf brings up a good point here. And
Mhm,
Michelle was typing away. Does that mean the future can be predetermined? I don't think where my brain goes with that is
mhm.
not for everybody, but these people that are messing around with this stuff or might hold certain positions within the human, you know, our human lifespan or whatever, like a psychologist or a philosopher or whatever.
Yeah.
These kind of people that are trying to access like a higher knowledge and, whatever the case may be. I mean, I don't know,
Mhm,
but I'm thinking that when they open that portal, if you will, or that doorway to
mhm.
themselves, that
Yeah.
that is where you can then be played like a puppet on a string. I remember something on uh Bigelow and his team before it was known as, a big TV show of Skinwalker Ranch and all that. They were saying that they were able to have things happen in the future that they should not have known, and it makes me think like these beans or whatever they were playing with, card games or
Mhm.
something, that these beings could do things before they were even asked to do them. They were already doing them. And now I'm thinking, okay, the tic tac that the Navy guys say
Right. Right.
was
He's
reacting.
already there.
Yeah. So, by the way, T-Bone, thank you very much for becoming a member. We really appreciate you. But, and then you talked about like, so mind blown here. I have the ayahuasca question written right here. And you were
Yeah.
talking about you're elevating your consciousness and stuff. Who's getting in there? Well, who
Oh
are those
yeah.
people, right? So,
Yeah. It's insane. And hello to my buddy Peter. That was my buddy. He showed up. Thank you for tuning in, man. It's dangerous, but you're exactly right. I will say this, that some of the most important work, at least in parapsychology, I've ever encountered, and I've met these people. Steve Mayer and Barry Fitzgerald in the Project Doorway. They in their experiments, whatever these beings are, they knew the future up to 12 months, at least. Like, you're going to be at a conference in France. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. 2 months later, the email comes. We're inviting you. So
Wow.
unbelievable, unbelievable. They're my favorite researchers right now, and of course, my good friend Paul Sinclair as well. But it's disconcerting, and we need to pay close attention to the implications for us as a species. It's not okay. Aliens are invading us. No, we're being toyed with. Something has infected our very reality to the point. This is some of Steve Mayer's work again, where even some of the apports being taken from homes are being replaced with other apports that look the part. But my friends, they're not the same. They look the same, but they're
Just
not.
just real quick, Diane Boss, a member for 12 months for the whole year we've been doing live streaming now. Thank you, Diane. You are awesome. She says, awesome, always a great show. Thank you, Diane. Nathaniel brings it every time he comes on here. So absolutely.
You know, so then we got to get into this kind of this a philosophical argument. Okay, is foreknowledge predestination, or and if it is, now we're talking about something that can incarnate as a being, right? Can possess a biological avatar, but whatever is in that inside of that transcends every known model. And the scary part about it is by the time we interface with that proto intelligence, in many cases, we realize, oh my God, I thought you were an alien until you weren't. I thought you were a ghost until you weren't. I thought you were a deceased ancestor till you weren't. And then now you're making eye contact with something again that has conjured you by using carefully scripted roles, stage managed manifestations to contour your consciousness, to guide your behavior as a human being. In built into that interface is the illusion of control. And it's terrifying, but yeah, it's fascinating too. So I don't know what they are, but the occult again, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Doesn't mean they're horns and hooves, right? It means that there's a reason why they're not carving Nike swooshes under people's eyelids. It's their sigils. And so there's some form of technomancy occurring where we see one side of it. It's the simplification of language. It's the iceberg effect. What we see is what we see, but there's something beneath the surface that the phenomenon is intentionally obfuscating. It doesn't want us to know. And so I don't want to ramble, but it's all fascinating.
It's fascinating and creepy all at the same time.
Yeah, no doubt.
So when people elevate their consciousness and they talk about doing this ayahuasca stuff,
Yeah.
are they actually getting in contact with what you think these things are, or is this something completely different? Like,
No.
how would you determine? Because they're all seeing
Well,
kind of the same things.
yeah. Well, if we look at the various archetypes the phenomenon uses to interact with us, my my ears were perked when I started seeing all of them at the same places at the same times, right? Whereas now, like this is fascinating. Right now, there's in October, well, next week, whatever. There's a conference in Germany. It's a parapsychological conference, and they're performing necromancy in order to contact aliens. Make that make sense.
But necromancy is the
There
to
we
do
go.
with the dead, right? So
Absolutely,
are you
absolutely.
saying that aliens are dead, or do you know something we don't?
Well, I
Right?
think that necromancy, it was one of their very first rituals, I guess, and incantations to contact the phenomenon. And so, but then again, so like, what would necromancy be? It would be not just the practitioner getting information from the other side, but this is necronetics to commission consciousness to possess a cadaver, to revive that body by placing something else in it. And
Do you think this is what was going on at Right Pat then? You had mentioned that before.
so yeah, so yes, and again, this has to be mentioned here. The scientific method is not what the phenomenon wants. It's what we're getting from the phenomenon. So we have practitioners in our own government right here, 10 minutes away from where I live. Okay, I live in Dayton, Ohio, right at Pat Air Force Base, that were tailoring their incantations according to the preferences of the phenomenon. Not the far right guys, right? Not Christians. It wasn't just something they picked up at the local smoke shop. No,
Almost like a scientific experiment.
there it was. And this is crazy, but it was during their rituals that they would alter their state of consciousness, and then the phenomenon would partially manifest metamaterial. See, the earliest model of the impartation of technology was not, oh my God, this is so cool, glitter and gold and all that. No, the idea was that they were placing their consciousness into the technology they were giving to us, and right, seeding us with themselves. And this is almost exactly what that Russian scientist was afraid of. Sure, you're thinking this is great. That's all well and good, and that this is some new weapon. It's a technological advancement. No, there's an entity in it, and it's a Trojan horse where it's in the technology. And what's terrifying to me is that I've had cases where whatever these things are have actually called people, turned the cell phone, like swiped right, press speakerphone and begin to converse. Get over here and talk to me. Get over here and talk to me. That's our technology. See where I'm
Wow.
going?
Yeah.
If I mean, how much more could they weaponize their own that we're using to disseminate? Not realizing that if this is parasitism, if this is almost a pathogenic possession, if you will, then it's not just, okay, here's technology. It's no, I'm inside of it, and you're going to want it. You're going to need it. And so it is in this way they kind of create a symbiotic relationship with us. And what's disturbing even more to me is again that we still have people in the community that are purely nuts and bolts, and it's laughable at this point. Laughable because, okay, it's one thing to say yes, there are nuts and bolts. That's completely different to say, hey, listen, there's consciousness in that ship. Remember what Blood Zone and all the other experiencers are saying? That ship had a soul in it. Where have we seen that? That's necronetics. That was literally furthering their existence by merging memory with matter, memory and matter together. Now, the closest model to that we have right now is AI.
And would you say before that we had the idea of golems back in
Yeah, it's in
antiquity
Prague.
then at that point?
Yeah, so it's fascinating because in the world of the golem, you have this dynamic where the various entities exist, like the homunculus, the homunculi, the small humanoid, right, with magical powers. The word golem was first introduced in Genesis as an infant. It meant a human that has potential to grow, almost like a fetus. Right? And so we're talking about the same things. We just didn't realize that. And so even with the golem, right? The famous rabbi who creates this thing out of mud and of dirt and dust and everything.
Right.
And
Yep.
guess what he does, guys, right? He starts to carve sigils into it. In the consciousness tethered to the symbol stretched itself into that avatar. Now, this is why it's so important that we have a phenomenological background when researching all of this. This is why I'm on X. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm on X. I hate it. I'm getting off of it. But I'm scrolling through there and it's frustrating because now it's like, okay, yeah, well, ufology is starting to redefine orbs. It's redefining everything else. And again, I think it's propaganda because the phenomenon is intentionally telling us it's modern, it's new, it's novel, right? And the orbs you see in these haunted houses, they're completely different than the orbs following Luis Elizondo. Different, way different. What if they're not?
Is that
And
what he's trying to say?
oh, 100%. Guys, Jay Stratton, whose book is going to be coming out shortly, someone sent me an excerpt. And in it, sorry, love and light folks out there, his son, who is partially deaf, woke his parents up the next day and said, as I was sleeping, I looked around. I woke up, I looked around, and there were shadow figures that were screaming telepathically into my mind. What we're looking at least from my perspective, is a singular intelligence that's weaponizing archetypes, and that has weaponized archetypes. If they can create physiological constructs, then we need to question every apparition we ever encounter in our lives. Do you understand, right? Because it's authoring its own mythology. I'm a ghost. Okay, here's hauntology, right? Woo, it's ghosties. And we're like, no, wait a minute. And I'll tell you when I started to come to that conclusion was working with my buddy Paul Sinclair. My buddy Paul's like, look, he's a cryptozoologist, and he's like, look, he goes, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm collecting case studies in Bolton and Benton in UK. He said where like a wolf man, dog man even, will be running parallel to a car. It's
Yeah.
moving like this, but it's going 50 miles an hour. Now, in front of me, I have a case study. Tammy Stone from 1973. Check this out. Hold on. Let me read this. Okay, to her right, she witnessed a pale pink dome a couple of 100 feet away. Suddenly, exiting the dome were two small humanoid creatures who walked in a jerky way. Archetypes. That's not the real entity. It's something that's blending in. And so we're looking at, it's fascinating to me because it's like, okay, what are we looking at? We're looking at something that wants to play the role. And yet sometimes it slips, right? I'm moving this fast, but I'm keeping up with a 60-mile-an-hour car. Or I'm trying to walk like a human, but I'm doing it in such a way that it's inconsistent and noticeable to the naked eye. So what are we looking at? Again, it's the weaponization of archetypes. And this is not just these cases, but it's been the same with guides, to the point where negative accounts, negative experiencers go to the same guides they have been getting information from. And the guide is either non-existent because a new program superseded that archetype, or the guide itself starts to, give context to the negative experience this abductee encountered. Where, yeah, they were doing that to you, but they were doing it for you. Right? To where anybody in the right mind would say, okay, yeah, that was kind of assault. Now the guide is starting to provide context to kind of reshape the negative experience. That's fascinating. Not just that, but there is a sharing of intelligence between some of these archetypes, where the alien suddenly knows what the guide does. Move on down the road. To where now it's necromancy. Oh, that's right. You got to go talk to dear Aunt Edna, who's going to go contact the aliens. No,
It it
it's
also
fascinating.
makes me well, when you bring up archetype, it makes me think of just the 1994 thing here in Michigan with the UFO sightings in on the west side of the state. And you get asked the question, well, why do UFOs have lights on the outside of their ship?
Oh my
Right?
God.
Or why does it look like a saucer? Or why because it's playing a game. It's
I'm
trying to
gonna
make
freak
you
you
think
out.
it's something that it's not.
I'm gonna freak you out, brother.
Oh, you already did,
Mhm.
man. So just
So there
stick a fork
is,
in me, I'm done.
yeah, this is so there is a reflective nature of the phenomenon, and in the reflection abides deception. So about 20 years ago, the Vatican started studying stigmata, and stigmata was being found in the hands, right? Everybody doing x-rays and running tests. The Vatican had actually created an entire arm of researchers, a branch, if you will, to say, okay, I want you to go throughout all the world, get these people together. We're going to do tests and see where the stigmata was. Sure enough, they found it. Couldn't explain it. They were anomalous. Holes in hands. And the Vatican said something. Creeps me out. They
Well,
said
we
it's
know
very
that it's
strange that it's manifesting in the hands.
that's not where it was.
Or was it vice versa? Probably vice
No,
versa.
through the wrist because the hands would tear. There's the
There we
bones
go.
are
Now, right. Now,
right.
yes, yes.
So they got it wrong because if
But
you
the
wanted
foot,
to be crucified, it had to be through the wrist bone.
right. But the phenomenon had weaponized the archetype. And slowly but surely, when the Vatican began to release, it was never in the hands. Gotcha. What are we looking at? We're looking at an intelligence that's authoring its own mythology and sometimes revising others to the point that right now the Vatican had to come out with another stricter rules, right? Just because it seems to be a Marian apparition doesn't mean it is. What do you mean? What are you telling us? What they're telling us is that there is an adaptive, self-evolving intelligence that is evolving according to our awareness of it, and that at times can create and reconstruct mythologies, dogmas, belief systems, and the only thing we can vet it with is truth. And
Well,
then guess what? Now it's
right.
starting to show in the wrists. It's
Mhm.
weird.
You know, it makes me think about people who like to talk, and we've got friends that have been on this show and stuff that talk about this galactic federation. They're watching out for us and things like that. But where were they when we were dropping bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima?
They didn't
What
care.
if they've been here this long and they don't want anything bad to happen, why didn't they stop that? Why didn't they stop Hurricane Helena that was just here? You know,
Yeah.
it's like they want to be. Now, get me if I'm wrong, because it's kind of like when people say, "How can there be a God when little kids are getting hit by stray bullets and dying? They're 4 years
Right.
old, right?" And
Mhm.
so these things in these people's minds are being elevated to that level of God. Well, God should step in. Why didn't these things step
There we
in?
go. There we go. There we go. It's possible. And this is, I'll be honest with you guys. I've been tapped out for the last month because it's exhausting, it's draining. And to be truthful here, I mean, to even be more truthful, it's disturbing to see where the phenomenon is leading us. I'm not even talking about religion or the zealots or as well as no, I'm talking about just people that are academics, that are physicists, that are, in the scientific method is the last way.
Well, I'm
They're
thinking
trying to
now just like Gary Nolan, right? Like
oh, yeah,
David Fravor, Ryan Graves, David
yeah. Mhm.
Grush, the whole government system now that seems to start, they've been looking into this for a while. We all know it. They've tried to cover it up and yada yada. Okay. They just need to stop that. The gig is up with that. But
Right.
when I look at these people sitting in front of Congress on TV and they're talking about it did this and it zipped, and then in 3 seconds it was 60 miles away, but it was where we were supposed to go. Right? It's
Yes,
like,
yeah. We're
uh,
we're characters in someone else's story.
yeah. And then let's see, and Bad Wolf, uh,
Mm,
I love this question because this is where I
mhm.
was going to start to go was,
Yeah.
could this intelligence be a hyper advanced AI? It's always like,
Yes.
it's not a move ahead, it's a
Oh,
hundred moves ahead.
yes, yes, yes.
And
And yeah.
one last thing. So sorry, Nathaniel, but one last thing. I got to thank T Bone for gifting 5 Michigan UFO sightings and paranormal encounter memberships to the group. Thank you very much, man. That's awesome. First time we've ever had that happen. So thank you, T Bone. Much appreciate it.
So the AI aspect of it is particularly intriguing to me because we have case studies where the phenomenon has to self-update, it has to improvise. And and I had a case study years ago where it was, the woman who was a little girl when she was being taken. I've told you guys this story before.
Yep.
It was always her favorite cartoon character, and when she got taller and it can you imagine that scenario? What? And now it has to improvise, and the creepiest part about it was the eyes moving. Oh, what is that? Oh,
Oh my God, dude.
I
You're
don't even wanna
blowing my
see that.
mind. Because go to like Canva and use their AI image
Yes,
generative stuff,
there we
and
go.
you tell it to create 10 people standing in a forest scene, and you
Mhm.
look closely at them and the hands are wrong. There's an extra finger. There's the ear is out
Yes,
of place, right?
right, it's try and I'm telling
It
you,
sounds like that.
yes, and, I had another case study where that happened. It was a woman that was she was, I guess, seduced by an entity, appeared just like her husband, but there were facial features that
That
were
just were
not
not right.
consistent. Yeah. So what are we looking at here? These inconsistencies need to be noticed. They need to be noted and kind of pushed forward into the conversation. Because there's right, okay, so you have entities that want to look the part, but they can't walk right. We have craft, right? We have aircraft, UAP, that want to look like an aircraft, like a ship, right? But it has nuts and bolts that are loose that we know can't possibly fly. And so interwoven, this is fascinating, mingled with the image it's trying to manifest as, there are subtle hints that that's not even real. That could be a not something, could be someone. And we, again, because we have been stuck in these intellectual coffins of, oh, it's demonology versus ufology or hauntology, we're not realizing that it's highly probable that just as the phenomenon weaponized the Wolfman, right, with Stratton, Axelrod, what was that? That was a response. It wasn't just, oh my God, wow, let's take a picture, Becky. Look. No, that was a control mechanism employed by this intelligence. And what did it use? Something that we've created entire mythology about, and it let it happen. Why? Because it's protecting its sources and its methods. If I can convince you, man, if I can convince you that those things actually exist, right? You're gonna think, "Oh, that's so cool. Let's go collect scat." No, 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 no. It's me. I don't right. You're getting too close to something. You're getting, and we've seen this before. And if that's the case, and even with the Skinwalker Ranch, it weaponized possession, telepathy. And when Bigelow left, he's like, "I'm never going back." And they're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Because, first of all, I mean, yeah, it was really bad. It just wreaked havoc in his family." He said, "Well, first of all,
Yeah.
there is no one species. There is no like, you know what I mean? I mean, there isn't. Yeah, there's a billion of them, and yet they're all there." And so that's when Nids kind of sat down one night and said, "All right, it's possible that this is what it's been doing the whole time."
Wow.
And yeah, so there's the sharing of information, but there's things that are present with us and absent from that are simulating reality, pockets of simulation, to where you and I can get in our car, go to the gas station, look up and think that's a Cessna. It's not. My brother was a part of a research group where they were putting cameras up all across the Utah Basin, just on trees, on light poles, and we got footage of an orb, a ball of light coming out, would manifest. By the time it got from here to here, it was in the shape of a plane.
That's
So
crazy.
when people want to sit there and say, "Oh my God, we're pushing," they want disclosure. No, they don't. No, they don't, because they're wanting to blend into reality. They want to preserve our perception of reality, because in the preservation of our perception of reality, they get to exist without being seen. They get to hide.
Okay, this is making me think. I'm going back a while ago, and when we first started this thing, and T-Bone brings up UAP is not UFO. Very interesting, especially with that name change now, right? But I was always thinking that and I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think this is what we need to do. We're not asking the right questions because we're stuck in a framework of religious
Yep.
versus ufology versus nuts and bolts versus spiritual. I think the questions we got to start asking, we got to step back and go, how about just intelligence?
Yeah.
How about we just look at it from an intelligent standpoint of something and not categorize it? Like,
Right.
now we can ask the right questions because we're seeing all these things and it's just reacting to us. Okay, I'll be a tic tac.
Right.
I'll be a tic tac for this person. It'll be a triangle for Michelle and I, a giant
There you go.
triangle, right? And for the
Yeah.
people that don't want to buy that, they got a nuts and bolts explanation. It's the TR3B. No,
Yeah.
no, we would have, that thing's been sitting around forever, and we would be using that thing any chance we got.
Oh yeah.
The United States is a military industrial complex. When we got something new, trust me, we're unzipping our pants and whipping it out to scare everybody else. Excuse my
Nice analogy there.
yeah, I'm sorry, but
Very nice. Very nice. Yep.
right, this is America, and we got the big
Merc.
bomb. We're whipping it out. You know, come mess with us.
Yes. It's,
So
Nathaniel Gillis. Okay, sure. He's a son, he's a brother, he's a man, right? Now, what we're doing is we're thinking, okay, the man is separate from the son, from the brother. These are traits, man. They're traits, and they might not even be archetypes. Traits. It's all fascinating stuff. One thing that does scare me more than anything, again, is the changing of the language, and it's not just as simple as that. There's intention behind it, because if they can control the question, they don't have to worry about the answer. That is what's going on.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. We can't even ask the right question
Yeah,
because of the
yeah.
people that we want, the people that are where they're at right now. Ryan
Mhm.
Graves, Lou Elizondo, all of these people, the people on the Senate committees and this, that, and the other are stuck in the framework of nuts and bolts. Who are they? Where are they from? Why are they here? You got to step back
Yeah.
and go examine what has happened. And I had Ray Szymanski on here. It was probably about 5. So we had him last week, but his previous episode that he was on, he talked about how, and he worked at Wright Pat for a very long time. I think he retired, from there as a civilian. But the thing is that these researchers like Szymanski, like Dolan, none of them are getting calls from the people that are supposed to be doing this on behalf of the American people and the government. So what do they know so that they don't
Oh my God. Yeah.
want to ask the question because they already know and they don't want to tell
They
us.
do.
And it's not what you
They do.
think.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. They're not out here writing books. You know what I mean? They're not. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of Lou's research was just Roger Lear stuff and stuff brought out from FOIA. The people that know the closest to the correct model are not doing podcasts, right? These are people that are zip. I don't want to tell you why, because the implications, not good, not good. And so, how we doing on time, buddy? We good?
We got about 5 minutes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all fun stuff. It's all fun and games, and and I'm worried now to this point where it's like I can see the writing on the wall. The phenomenon is pushing altars. It's pushing prophets. It's telling people. Um, One of the most famous individuals now was called by Tim Taylor. It's time to go to the next stage. Oh, there's stages. Yes, go to the next phase. What's the next phase? You can go into churches now and start laying hands on people. Time out. What that means is, right? I thought we were talking about UFOs here, buddy. No, we're not. This is infinitely more complicated. And again, the scientific method is not what drove people to build altars in antiquity. The scientific method was given to us because we did that. It was the secondary consequence of worship, the posturing of oneself underneath the cosmology of stars, the obedience, the dietary modifications, the realization that I'm going to place my family within the proximity of the phenomenon. That's what they're doing. And I'm getting really, really tired and just people that want to control the narrative and they want to gaslight us. And people with a phenomenological background and especially demonological, it's not going to work. We know too much now.
Yep.
But yep,
And we can share the information too,
absolutely.
at least until they make us stop. So, and right now they do that by making sure that we're not out there as much as we could be, I guess. And but anyways, all right. Well, you know what, Nathaniel? I know we said we were gonna go an hour and 15. It's about that time. Any last
Okay.
things you wanna hit us with?
Um,
Because you've blown my mind yet again tonight.
yeah, thank you, buddy. So the incarnations are modern, the incantations are ancient. So it really doesn't matter what the archetypes are. It seems like they'll possess archetypes like they'll possess people. And that whatever we're dealing with likes to carve its sigils into people. And sometimes, dare I say, into souls. And then when they inhabit the body again, they manifest through the skin to the surface. We've seen that. So whatever the blank, 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 blank we're dealing with, it transcends every known model. And we're not prepared for that. We're not prepared
Yeah.
for that. But thank you guys so much for having me on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Always a good time.
Always a good time. You're always great at creeping us out, especially me, because I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. And what a great way to bring in October. Just freak everybody the hell out and just, let's get dark.
Works for me.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
All right, Nathaniel. Well, thank you very much. We will talk
No problem.
in the future here coming up, and I look forward to what some of your research will unveil as you move along. So, all right,
100%.
Nathaniel,
You guys
thank
have
you.
a
Have
good
a
night.
great night. Thank you. All right. Whew.
It's
Wow.
always a mind-blowing experience
It
when
it
Nathaniel's
is.
on.
I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping tonight because I'm going to be thinking constantly about this stuff, and and that's kind of a good thing because we are now in a different paradigm, right? We're thinking about this stuff in a different way, and we should always be thinking about this paranormal and UFO UAP thing. I think we should keep an open mind and not subscribe to any one thing. And even as creepy and scary as it might sound, we should, be open with it and try to figure it out from an honest standpoint. So for me, it's stepping back and
Becoming knowledgeable.
yeah, yeah, but asking the right questions,
However, I'm not going to Germany anytime soon.
No,
Oh,
or
good
anywhere
Lord.
where they want to contact these things. I mean, what did he say? It was like a parapsychological, like a con or something over in Germany, like a paracon or whatever, like a Comic Con kind of a thing, and yeah,
That's tempting fate.
yep,
Like nobody's business.
exactly. All right. So once again, we need to thank some people here. So first of all, thank you, Gary T, for the very gracious donations to the podcast. That helps us out a lot. Yeah, we're just very grateful for your Patreon and for your donation via PayPal. And then we've got T-Bone, who did a super chat and also became a new member. So T-Bone, thank you. Great to talk to you and see you in chat today. Can't thank you enough for that. And then T-Bone also, I've never seen this before, but I mean, I've seen it on other shows, but gifted 5 memberships to 5 lucky people.
That is cool.
So yeah, very cool. And then of course, the lady of the hour, Diane Boss, a member now for a year straight. Amazing. Always a great show, she said. And we are glad that you enjoy it, even from way over on the other side of the country in Washington State. So, yeah, Nathaniel always brings it. So, Michelle, I think we should start thinking about getting out of here. And
yeah,
any last minute things?
My final thoughts are just, prayers to my friends and family down in Florida and also in North Carolina, an area that I grew up visiting. And Wayne and I were actually making plans to go there next summer.
Yep.
Was Lake Lure, North Carolina, in the Chimney Rock area, in Asheville, North Carolina, and all through there has just been completely devastated.
The landslides and the rain.
A town that I used to go to up until just, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, it's completely wiped out.
Yeah, so yeah, we just want to ask for some good energy, some vibes, some
and
prayers.
More storms coming in. I mean, it's seriously cooling down up here in Michigan. It has been so gray and rainy the last couple days. This is weather that I would expect in November. So,
yeah, it's heartbreaking to see, but natural. This is natural tragedies, man. This is natural disasters at their finest, and it doesn't care where you live or where your roads are or anything, but it's horrible to see that, especially Chimney Rock. The picture right before
Tomahawk, the before and after of that area.
Crazy. Just like erased. Don't mess with those floodwaters either, people. There's so much stuff in it. That water is moving. It's heavy. Just get away. Don't make a video. Just get away from it.
You know what? We might have to talk about this sometime on the show. I got a friend who's hell bent saying that the government is controlling our weather.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Might have to dig into that.
The weather
The-
control is something they've been looking to do for a long time.
Weather control, and how many times have the northern lights been visible?
Well, the sun has been acting extremely weird, and we may be going through a pole shift where the North and South Pole may end up flipping here, because the North Pole is moving and it's getting faster and faster. So that's some creepy stuff. And but we're getting into Spooktober, so let's see how spooky it can get. Maybe we can get some people on to talk about these things, weather control, and what's going on with the sun and pole shifts and all that. I mean, maybe Randall will come on. Randall Carlson will come on and talk to us about all that. But all right, Michelle, I think we need to get out of here. It's going to be an early morning
Yeah,
tomorrow,
it's
and
gonna-
we're back to school.
Back up at 4:30 a.m.
Yes. All right, everybody. Well, we want to thank you. And remember, if you want to send us an email, it's mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com. Send us your stories, your comments. Leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe as well.
Don't forget the poll.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So the poll question, right? The poll question was, do you think AI or a robot can be possessed by non-human intelligence? 71% said yes, 29% say no. So I don't see why not. I mean, but I can't vote. So it was my poll. All right, Michelle. I think it's that time.
Yep. Have a great night and have a great week, everyone. Be safe.
Yep. Everybody, we want to thank you. And again, to the super chatters, the new members, the donations, you guys are awesome. The best chat and audience in town is right here.
I'm telling you, it's our own little eclectic family.
It is. It's our extended family. So, all right, everybody. We want to say thank you. Have a great night. And Michelle,
keep your eyes to that
sky. See you, everybody.